Minutes from our last meeting, and if there's a
I'll make a
motion to
motion.
adopt those,
Second.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Minutes are adopted. Now, the rest of this, there's a lot on here. And so I want to take a minute to kind of give a rehash of what I talked with Mr. Wilson, Mr. Fail about as to how I think I've got this organized. So what I've asked for in the first 1, 2, 3, actually they're all listed under number 1, but it's the 1, 2, 3, 4 issues that I've been briefed on leading up to this point that really constitute any significant deviation from our level funded directive for budget preparation. Becky, does that meet? That's the correct understanding of what we got. So I've asked that we go through those first so that those will provide us an explanation, a chance for comments and questions on those things where we acknowledge we are wiggling away from that level funding on this or that. I've also asked for an update on the opioid settlement revenues and agency funding contract amounts, because that will come into play during the agency funding talks. So depending on how long that goes and how involved or not involved it is, we will begin trying to work our way down through some of the other issues. And the other issues are, assuming we've done the hearings, the questions, and the comments, are really just voting issues for the most part. What I expect will happen as we move through the meeting is I expect we will get briefed on the departures from level funding, and then those should get us to a point of satisfaction on the two largest components of the budget, the general fund and the water and sewer budget. And if we're okay at that point, I may ask that we go ahead and call for a vote on the two largest components and then leave ourselves the upcoming week and next Tuesday to work through the remainder. Any questions? All right. So item number 1 under new business is a sort of a continuation of the FY25 budget hearings. These are the deviations from that level funding directive given by the mayor to the staff departments in preparing their budget request. Chief, the first of those is the Tuscaloosa Police Department drone program.
Yes, sir. I'm going to give you a recap of our drone program. Finance will have all the numbers for you if you request any of those. I will say, since our articles have hit, once the mayor released that we were going to do this program, it has popped up now all over the state with departments contacting us. The vendors we use have told us that other places locally and across the state have contacted them wanting to do the same thing we are. So we are the first in this area to do this, and it's taken off all across the state. People like our logic. And we're getting a lot of phone calls.
I hope that reflects in their price to us for all the business.
I do have Lieutenant Burns with me and Steve Zark with me, who's our drone over our drone operations.
Well,
So there,
Thank y'all for being
can get any technical questions you have. Tuscaloosa Police Department Drone Expansion Program. Basically, this is going to be our org chart, the way it's going to break down. Lieutenant Burns is our commander over cyber. We've broken off into 2 different sections now. We're broken off into 2 different sections. You'll have our USA operations manager will be over all of our drones. And then we'll have our cyber aspect, which is run by Sergeant Wilkinson with all of our crime analysts. So cyber will it'll all be one unit, but it'll be kind of broken down into 2 separate sections to get the overall.
okay, before you leave that slide, so where are you now with regard to this chart?
Right now we have 1 drone operator who is going to be Zark, and then we have we still have that sergeant over crime analyst. Right now we have 4 crime analysts. We currently have in the pipeline.
You do have the 4 crime analysts.
Yes, sir. We have 2.
And those are
hires.
civilian, right?
All of them are civilians. We'll have 2 new drone pilots that will be coming in the 23rd of this month. that will start, and then the other 4 will be hopefully after the October 1 budget.
Okay, and then Zark bumps back,
He'll be over our
once
drone
the,
program.
once the pilots start coming in,
Yes,
he's
sir.
the operations manager.
Yes, sir. He will oversee all of our drone operations.
Okay. And so you've got 2 hired or on the hook,
We got 2 that have accepted the offers, and they start on the 23rd.
23rd of September?
Yes, sir. So
That's
they're
great.
coming pretty
That's
soon.
excellent.
We're super excited about them.
Before we leave that, what is the experience? And Zark, why don't you come on up beside him for this? What is the experience in finding and recruiting? And I guess I'll have to ask about retaining later on. What's the market?
You want to talk to me too?
So what we did is we're looking for, with the expansion, we're going to be providing the services for the city departments as well as the police department. So in our search for the candidates for the drone pilots, we had that in mind when we were looking for them. So we found ones that were obviously certified and well-versed in drones already, and that had the experience, at least the core experience for flying drones and their familiarity with them.
And where are they getting it? Are they coming out of the military? Are they just civilian
So
kibbutzers? Or where are they getting this?
one of them actually owns a drone photography business.
Oh, okay.
Right now, he's been running his business for about 5 years, and does everything from real estate to property management with the drones. So therefore, he's very well versed for what the city departments are going to be utilized for. So with
Great.
the photogrammetry, the topography, and all that other stuff, he's very familiar with it. And then we were able to find another candidate for the position that has actually been in law enforcement for 18 years.
Okay.
And so that's going to work really well with the TPD side and then the fire side as well. So he understands public safety. So we're extremely fortunate to find 2 people that were well versed in drones, but also had a background in public safety and in what we would need for the city.
I'm very glad to hear that.
Yes, sir.
Once we get fully operational and we hire the 4 new pilots after October 1, cyber will be 24/7. I know Councilor Busby, that's something you wanted for a long time. They'll work 3 different shifts, 7 to 3. Day shift will have 3 drone pilots plus existing cyber staff. Evening shift will have 2 drone pilots cross-trained to perform cyber intel. So that's very important because if there's not much going on in the city, they're obviously watching cameras. They're launching drones to hot calls. They can also be doing our cyber intel for the next day for our briefings and working on anything else that needs to be done. And then midnight shift will have 2 drone pilots cross-trained to perform cyber intel tasks as well. Those will get our morning briefings every morning. You know, we brief on all felonies that happen in the city, so they'll be going ahead and running some of those numbers too for us. So when we get to work at 8 o'clock, we can have our meeting.
Very exciting.
24/7 drone coverage, we just touched on that. They'll all have their own vehicles, generally geared for rapid deployment.
They all have their own vehicles?
Yes, they'll all have take-home vehicles that will be equipped with drones.
So are they primarily positioned in or with the vehicle, or are they primary positioned on fixed points?
Glad you asked that. It's actually both. So let's just say we have a shooting coming. Hopefully we won't have any shootings in the city of Tuscaloosa, but if we do,
Hope's not a course of
Um,
action.
Might.
one comes in, they launch that drone from headquarters or from whatever building we put it across in the city. We'll have 4 drones across the city that have 3-mile coverage all the way around.
3
That-
miles?
3 miles, yes, sir. 6 miles, but 3 miles each way. So that drone's launched. If it's a hot call or anything like that, and they know like it's going to be a shooting, we're going to be on scene for a good while. That initial drone is up, and then basically the other pilot will get in their vehicle. They'll have their down drone. They'll drive, and then this one will come back. This one will go up. And the reason for that is we've got to change batteries. Flight time eats up batteries. So then you'll have constant batteries. It comes down, and you got coverage. And then if that drone comes down, the other drone can also launch and keep 24-hour surveillance on what we need it to watch. So it's very important that they all do have their vehicles. They all have their own drones because you've got battery coolers and other things inside the vehicles that has to go with it to be absolutely effective. Multiple outfitted vehicles are addressed that, so we can have, if we have a big scene, we can have 2 drones up at a time. There are times right now when we're just using our one that we have to come down, and let's say we're doing a detail, we need to be watching this residence, we have to come down for batteries. Well, sometimes that's when things happen. So we'll be able to do that a lot more effective than we are now. Cost saving benefits citywide. Zark has already said, you know, we're going to be flying for the water department, engineering, communications. We're going to have somebody who is highly trained that already is very good at drones, and we think that with this can cut down city costs. We can get a lot of different things. We're going to be purchasing a lot of different computer programs that can do a lot of cool things that y'all are going to see. So we're excited about that. I know other department heads in the city are excited. We're already getting a lot of requests to fly different things. So that's going to cut down on hopefully the outsourcing the city's going to have to do when we can send our person to go to that school if they need a specialized certificate or anything like that to do it, and then we can do it cost-free at that point. DFR, and that's, what is that? Drone first responder pilots. High priority calls, they'll go on all shooting, stabbings, in progress calls, any large gathering outdoor events that we feel like we need to monitor, investigative reports if we're watching any kind of residents or anything like that for an investigative reason. Preventive patrol of parks, trails, walking paths, and other public areas. We use drones. Sorry, how many flights did we do last year?
We did over 460.
So we did about 460 flights last year with just one full-time drone operator. So you're going to see an increase.
So
in how
we're
many flights
expecting
we're doing.
2,500 to 3,000?
We absolutely could top 1,500 to 2,000 within the next year coming up. I think it'll only grow from there.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah,
It
we're
is.
very excited. Like I said, once the mayor announced that this is something we're looking at, a lot of departments across the state have been calling, saying, "How are y'all doing this?" We're very fortunate in Tuscaloosa to have Steve Zark. He knows all the requirements and how to put this together. Because I know if I was trying to do it, you want to get this quality of work, because I have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to drones. But that's the great thing about TPD. I think we find the best people and put them in the best spots to get what we need done. So all our major events we can fly, and then of course ball game days, amphitheater events, and different other details that we have. And like I said, all of our shooting scenes, our accident reconstructions, we use a drone now for that. So we're using them more and more every single
For
day.
A-Day, just for A-Day.
Yeah, A-Day is huge. And then also something I know that we sent links to Chief Smith on some fires that we kind of showed, hey, this is the level of service that you're going to get, where the fire department can actually see the fire before they get there. They know kind of what to expect, and not only the people on the crews though, but your fire chief sitting at home. They'll be able to see everything going. So there's nothing worse than if you're a fire chief or police chief and something's going on, you want to see what's going on, but you can't. So that'll be taken care of. We'll have a fire radio up there at PD Dispatch or PD Cyber. And any house fires, the drones will be immediately launched there as well. So it's extra coverage for us and the fire department. As you see on the right, that's one of the first times we really use a drone. That's when somebody shot at us going down the road. You're going to see that's MRAP behind it. We actually busted out the back window and Zark landed the drone in the back of the vehicle so we could have communication with the driver to get him to surrender as quickly as possible. So the amount we use a drone, it's amazing. It makes it safer because officers didn't have to do it. We set the drone down and we got footage.
Can
of
you
the
talk
suspect.
smack to him while you're in his back windshield there?
We stay professional. So that's pretty much the drone program.
Okay, who's gonna talk the money side? You're Miss Chief.
But
I can talk about that.
Okay,
we'll let the money experts talk about that.
Chief, thanks. It's very exciting.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all. We can answer any additional questions you have.
And by the way, I think part of what Ms. Chief's gonna talk at the money side, the difficulty in finding and hiring sworn police officers hasn't magically cured itself. And so again, the difficulty in doing that is still there, but this helps leverage technology to offset some of those problems. I'm very excited. Go ahead, Ms. Chief.
Yes, sir. So the overall funding for this plan is around $1.2 million.
Check.
So as Chief mentioned, they're creating around 7 FTEs. We are eliminating 8 vacant positions within the budget to
Okay,
fund
hang on one
those.
second.
Yes,
The
sir.
1.2 include the equipment and the
Yes.
people?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's equipment and people. So the total for the new positions is around $703,000, and the equipment is around $505,000.
Okay.
So that's the total of 1.2. Again, elimination of 8 vacant police patrol officers to create the new and the upgrade.
So is there, it's a wash, right?
Yes, sir. It's a wash.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I had another question.
Ravens already celebrating.
Emergency Operations Manager, who's gonna brief that up? Locke and Brendan?
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
One of the proposals we have, this is from TPD and Municipal Security and Operations. Currently, our incident command structure system, which we are blessed to have Mayor Maddox and his expertise to assist with the process, but currently we kind of do it by committee, which, to be quite honest, is not necessarily always the best approach. From a non-public safety perspective, Mr. Holmes, myself, and Ms. Kreitz are the two or three primarily featured team members. The rest is typically driven through Chief Smith, other Chief TPD on TPD's side. One of the things that we looked at when Captain Chronister started his position was, is there a way we could do this better? Just to give you an idea, since roughly January or December, crossing into 23 or 24, we've had weather events, what I'll kind of call that civil unrest kind of components where we have to activate 3 hazmat situations, a cyber prep situation, tabletop exercises. That's just within about 6 to 8 months. The uniqueness with Tuscaloosa for critical emergency operations, we have 3 lakes, we have an airport, we have a water and sewer utility system. I heard it highlighted earlier that we are the largest city in Alabama for 16 days out of the year. I learned a tremendous amount through the strip planning and security process about 18 months ago. It also informed me that we need a position at the city that is able to interface with the EMA, University of Alabama's EOC, TPD, TFR, and also coordinate the other relevant
Do we
aspects.
cross-pollinate the EOCs? Do they have somebody in ours and us in theirs?
Captain Chronister, I'm going to let him kind of go through
Okay,
our
well, then
existing
keep going.
operations, but I'll let
I
him
didn't mean
kind
to
of touch on
derail
that.
you.
No, go
No,
ahead. Go.
So right now, yes, I basically liaison with the City Hall Emergency Operations Center downstairs, and then we have our other ones that pipe in through online through Zoom-like
But
channels.
do we have anybody in the university's EOC?
For certain events, yes. So if there is a large
I
enough
mean,
campus,
typically, there would be a liaison desk for another large organization. do
Yes.
we?
Yeah.
Okay. And they in ours?
typically not, no, sir.
One of the things that Captain Chronister and I identified, and also working with Chief Smith on a couple of other related items, is we do have an area of improvement on what I'll kind of call that proactive crisis management response. Right now, we're very good on receiving an issue, processing and getting through it, but being prepared for the upcoming issues of what could pop up, we could do a much better job. We could do a better job integrating technology, software, response, coordination, and being fully prepared. That is something we see for this position being, and that its hours are structured that way, not necessarily 24/7, but that is their sole focus, to somewhat eliminate the committee approach that at times Captain Chronister, Mr. Holmes, and Ms. Kreitz and myself do from a non-public safety component from staffing. So that's, I guess, really best practices in research. HR has vetted the position. They've reviewed it. I know Captain Chronister's looked at some other examples. Ms. Sheaf would have to touch on the exact funding. I believe we're essentially revenue neutral other than some water and sewer area that we would probably need to look at. I will note that I think a lot of times people think of extreme rain events, you think of tornadoes or other related items. Usually it has an impact on our water and sewer system at times. So that can be something that I've learned, at least in the last 18 months, that is really a high priority for myself to make sure we're prepared for those situations.
Okay, who, Ms. Schieffer, you gonna talk the money side of this?
I can.
I just, and
Just the cost of
it
position.
can, come on, now,
Sure.
it can be relatively big blocks. What are the pieces of the funding required? There's salary and benefits.
I have
Is
an-
there office space, cars, what else? Equipment?
Overall, the total value for the position is $110,000, and that's with benefits.
Okay.
We did downgrade a mail clerk, position, or offset that, eliminated it, that was about $62,000.
Okay.
The difference really just kind of fell out within the general fund as we were moving through budget hearings and making reductions and increases throughout.
But what else is part of the package? Is there office space, cars,
I would assume,
communications equipment? Where does this person hang out?
let's start with office space. I'm going to reformat some spaces within second floor of Annex 3, which is, I think initially when this position is brought on, to have some proximity to myself and some other team members. Ms. Kreitz is also on that floor. We've submitted a report over to Mayor Maddox, which will allow myself to work with Mr. Thompson to kind of revamp and refresh, kind of reformat the Harrison Taylor Incident Command Center. It works great, but there's some spaces we could better optimize. So I could see long-term that space being more devoted to that individual's position within that basement ground floor, but not necessarily initially. Right now, we're conducting some revamp of some vehicle reviews. They will need access to a vehicle. Whether or not that's a take-home vehicle will be something we'll need to evaluate when the position is hired. I will say for the interview process, it will be daunting. I think it's the best way to put it. They'll need to interact with police chief, fire chief, myself, probably Mayor Maddox, HR, Captain Chronister. So you will have a top-tier panel reviewing for this position to make sure everybody's comfortable, just to be quite honest.
And who's this person report to?
Directly, it would be myself. For as far as performance appraisals, et cetera. Functionally, though, from a functional supervision, I think there are times where it could be working directly with Captain Chronister or TFR, TPD, or, for example, Mr. Holmes.
But who writes your performance review?
It would ultimately be myself and working with concert with the other individuals involved. I'm personally very excited. I've learned a tremendous amount from TFR, TPD, obviously from Mayor Maddox over the years. I think this is something that we could do much better if we did not take a full committee approach, and I think we could be a lot more proactive versus just being on the reactive side. I think it's a very nominal investment for a long-term return, to be quite honest. So I know Mayor Maddox, I don't know if you have any thoughts.
And Councilor Busby, is something I've been very passionate about, and certainly just by circumstance. It's primarily of April 27, 2011, but then all these multiple events that happen on an annual basis. We have done a tremendous job in response, but it is, as you and I discussed a month ago, we've been very blessed that our timing has been when most of the primary actors in these situations are in the city, are in town. The other aspect of this is that having someone who every day is being in advance of what is out there is important. Just the amount of staff work that's being put into the tropical system that's in the Gulf right now. Mm-hmm. Just us making certain that if things go sideways, the prep work for it. All that, as Mr. Moore mentioned, is being done by committee with really no one making certain that every X is crossed, or every T is crossed, every I is dotted. We've gotten to the point of sophistication. We need this. We also need someone who can make us better. I mean, right now, we're good at what we do. In fact, I'd put us against anyone. But we could be better, as Mr. Moore talked about. Technology applications, integrations with other agencies who are in that mix when something happens, whether it's a school shooting, whether it's a hazmat, whether it's a cyber attack, whether it's civil unrest. There are better ways for us to organize, approach, and then, God forbid, respond. We need someone every day that's thinking about that. EMA is not that. EMA is a resource. EMA is created by law to bring resources together. It's mainly from the state to the county to the city. This is more about the tactical emergency response framework that would be put together that I think is absolutely essential. The other thing too is, I could get run over by a bus tomorrow, and I'm very fortunate to have 19 years of experience in this job. The person the next day is not going to have that experience. We really need to build that institutional knowledge that a mayor can turn to, his or hers left or right and say, how do we need to approach this situation? I think this is a critical position for us moving forward.
Mayor, who's thinking through the command relationships? Because as we bring in a new role, we don't need to.
Well,
this my point is this. When everything's calm, command relationships may be one thing. They're primarily administrative in nature. When things start breaking all around, we've got him, you, and this EMA. that's going to take some thinking through so that everybody is, you know how y'all make fun of me of who's in charge?
Yeah.
That question becomes critical when stuff is blowing away.
I feel, actually, it's that component I have the most, I feel the best about. We've been very good, really since our 2009, when we set in place our emergency response plan, of creating a chain of command through our incident command. We have an operations, basically an operations director who reports to the IC commander, and the IC commander then reports to me. And we've been very diligent about following that chain of command. This person will not be the IC manager. If it's a hazmat spill, it's going to be Randy Smith that's most likely. If it's a school shooting, well, it's going to be
So
Brent
this
Blakely.
person will not be the IC manager.
Most likely, they will not be the IC manager. They're going to be the one who makes certain that the mayor stays out of the way, or they're going to make certain that Randy Smith is getting the information that is needed back in.
Are they gonna be the primary conduit for the coordination with other agencies participating?
They
Because you
will-
have federal and state, not to mention county and all the others.
They'll be the institutional knowledge. They'll be the person that knows who to talk to at federal and state. They might not necessarily be the person who is requesting that information.
Is that the person who federal, well, I'm sorry, we don't need to
The
get into
idea
this
is
in
for them to be a
finances.
facilitator
I think
to
I
assist.
can give you a really practical example right now, Councilor Busby. So let's take for Thursday with the tropical storm event. If this position were in place, Chief Smith, we have calls planned and set up. There would be, to Mayor Maddox's point, that position would almost at this point be deployed over to Chief Smith as a liaison to be making sure the,
So that's what I was
Storm
asking
drains
about
are gonna be
command
cleaned out.
relationships. Are the chiefs reporting to him?
no, they would be
Or is
reporting
it-
back over. They would be a resource from a non-public safety standpoint to be making sure public works, do we have everything cleaned out? Do we have our tree trimming crews? Do we need our sand trucks? Do we need whatever it may be prepped for the event? And that would probably rotate to whether it was Chief Smith, Mr. Holmes for civil unrest. I think I have a couple on the list as well myself. So that could be functionally, depending on who that commander is in that scenario, that position will plug in with them and be prepped and ready.
And this person is also going to go ahead and we may be at level 1, but if it's a hazmat event, we got to order an evacuation plan. How do we identify the hospice patients? How do we identify that those that are disabled? How do we set up mobile medical pharmacies for those who have to get departed from their homes? What are bus schedules? What are available buses? I mean, how do we comms the plan? This person is charged with giving the incident commander the roadmap. They're the ones that you're not sitting around the table going, okay, Richard, how do we communicate with 3,000 people in 1 square mile? How do we go find 38 buses in 5 minutes to go put to a mobile point? This person knows how to do that and is telling if it were, if Chief Smith is the incident commander, Chief, we're gonna need to activate, or I recommend that you activate A, B, C, or D. And by the way, you may need the mayor's authorization on D, E, and G. These other things, you may not need the mayor's authorization. You can do as IC commander. So that is what this person, he or she, would bring to the table that we really need.
I will say from post-April.
I hope that makes sense.
Post-April 27th from response, really within the last 10 years, the public safety side and really non-public safety, there's no territorialism. When these events come up, it doesn't matter who the commander is, who's in operations, and who's in charge. Everybody falls in line, and they do it for the greater good. And we have never had an issue with that, and I only see this kind of feeding it, making it better, to be quite honest.
So is this
So-
person kind of like the micromanager of
Planner.
all?
The planners, but like one of the big aspects of this is that as everybody here has whatever their full-time position is, and we're having to do this by committee, there's not opportunities for us to really, as you said, get ahead, be proactive. To be able to facilitate these plans, to be able to operate from a standpoint of having tabletop exercises and to have proactive training where we look at future things that we may have to deal with. There's not enough time in most everybody here's position to be able to dedicate to that on the scale that we really need to apply, especially for a city the size that we are, the amount of events that we have. So the goal for this would be to have this person plan out in advance these kind of things, for much like what the mayor said, if it's calls that we need to do A, B, C, or D, it's written down somewhere, it's already established.
Well, I appreciate y'all indulging me, going down that rabbit hole. That's probably beyond the scope of
It's a life
finance committee,
experience for
but,
you, though,
yeah,
Mr.
it's,
Buckner, you understand it.
that's a whole ball of wax unto itself.
It will be, I will assure the council this, it will be for every district, right? This will be prep for any event, response, and proactively done, and it will be a daunting process from an interview. Not in a bad way, but you've got to have the right person, you've got to have somebody that's able to make decisions. They must have the trust of our two chiefs and their team members, most importantly, and then the ability, as Captain Cronister alluded to be able to plug into those other agencies with a level of respect and trust. So
Okay.
we're going to make sure they're fully involved in this if approved.
Mr. Fail, Mr. Wilson, y'all have any questions or comments? We had
Thank
it
y'all so
covered.
much, though, for coming and
I'm
presenting.
thinking that it's gonna be difficult to find the right person.
Job market's good. I'm going to be very optimistic.
I think they're out there.
I hope that we can recruit them, but I think it's important that we get the right person.
And
the
this,
first
I
time.
think it's important that this isn't a warm body. If we can't all agree, then we'll just wait and we'll push it to the right timing. But, HR has shown we've had a nice uptick in very qualified applicants for key positions of late. So I feel confident if we post it for long enough, we'll get it out to the right organizations. And Captain Cronister knows some people. I think maybe we'll be able to get some good applicants in the pool.
Good.
Any other questions?
Not from us on this one. I
Thank you for
appreciate
your
it.
time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's see, we got, accounting and finance, revenue code enforcement. I saw London sitting over there. Welcome. Revenue code enforcement.
So I have Trent Smiley here. He's our Director of Revenue Code Enforcement. I'll introduce and I'll let him talk a little bit about what we have proposed. So in this year's budget, we have proposed some additional personnel within the Revenue Code Enforcement team. Currently, the team has 2 revenue officers and 3 business tax auditors. They oversee around 218 square miles and about 17,000 accounts.
17,000 active accounts.
17,000 active accounts. So with that minimal staffing, some of the issues that we've seen is we've had a really hard time managing our delinquents. I think at the end of this business license season, we had around 5,000 delinquents outstanding. So that's 2 revenue officers to kind of comb through that list and try to get those businesses into compliance. Another issue we have is we have a hard time going out and actually proactively looking for unregistered businesses. That's mainly because they're focusing on those delinquents constantly. Our business tax auditors, they also have quite a backlog of audits. When they're really at 100% capacity, and when they finish an audit, they have about 10 they can pick from to start a new one. So we have a proposal to add new personnel in the budget. The total, I'll actually let Trent go through the titles and what they'll do. But the total that this will cost is about $608,000.
608 was it?
608, yes, sir. The good news is that we can fully pay for that. These individuals will fully pay for that expense with the revenue we think they'll bring in. And that's actually a very conservative calculation that we've done. It's possibly they'll bring in more, but the conservative amount is that they will pay for themselves. I'm going to let Trent talk a little bit about who and the titles and
Do we have
when
copies of that?
and what their focus will be.
Huh?
Do we have copies of what they're going to present?
I'm sorry?
We
have
don't have handouts.
No, I
covered.
don't have a handout, but I'm happy to get you one.
Okay.
So, like Ms. Chief said, currently we only have 2 outside revenue officers. And for those of you that know how big the jurisdiction is, it's a big task for 2 people to patrol that and to go out and enforce the taxpayers that choose not to remit their taxes, obtain their business license. And we're at a point where we're just trying to get down the list of the businesses that we do know about. That's not to mention the ones that are out there that we have no clue about. So we're requesting 3 additional revenue officers and then a manager to oversee those now 5 revenue officers. I think that's going to give us a chance to knock down the delinquent list and then start patrolling our jurisdiction to find the businesses that we don't know about. And there is significant revenue, I think, left on the table from the businesses that we don't know about, just from the ones that we find in the middle of our other stuff. If we're conducting an audit, we might run across a business that we previously wasn't registered. Just one last week, one business that we found that's been in our jurisdiction for 6 years without a license would cover one of these salaries. And that's not, I mean, it happens.
Oh, I know, when there's construction crews up on the roof of a house on a Sunday evening in my district, generally they're not, have a business license.
Right. So currently we have 3 business tax auditors, and we're requesting 2 additional business tax auditors and then a manager to oversee the now 5 business tax auditors. We've all seen issues with long-term rental, short-term rentals. So what this will allow us to do is to dedicate 1 auditor just to short-term rental and long-term rentals, and really get out there and identify these rental properties that we don't currently collect rental license tax on.
Now, don't we have 2 or is it 3 short-term rental auditors that were going to be paid for by the tax collected?
We
No,
might be talking about code enforcement.
I believe those are the code enforcement
Okay.
folks that live in UD, which is why
Okay.
Trent's looking at you blankly. And I don't know how many of them there are, but they
there
are.
was originally 2, can't remember if it went to 3 or not, but again, that was gonna be pay, like what you're describing in this. That was gonna be a self-licking ice cream cone.
I believe our voluntary
Supposed to
collection.
take care of itself.
I believe our voluntary collection agreement more than covers those positions, but
Yes. We anticipated, I think, the first year of putting those 2 on staff, it may have been 3 or 4 years ago, that it would collect at least 120,000 in taxes, short-term rental tax, and I believe I don't know what the short-term rental tax collections off the top of my head, but I suspect they're higher than 120,000 annually.
I think they were between 3 and maybe over 5 last time. I'm just having to think back to the last revenue.
Okay, go ahead, Trent.
So the ability to have 1 auditor really focus on these rental properties, I think is gonna be huge for the city. We know there are tons of unlicensed rental properties. If you throw a stick at a neighborhood, you can find
Come
at
to
least
District
1,
4.
probably more.
Oh my.
Another issue that we have is a lack of information about the taxes that are due, and I believe if we have this 1 person dedicated to rental, you know, they can work with the realtors around town and make sure they know what's required if somebody buys an investment property, and I think that'll go a long way towards compliance at the end of the day. So if I can impress anything upon all of you, it's we need this, and the money is out there to pay for it. They will pay for their positions.
So let me ask you a question. For those persons who perhaps may be already in some type of revenue office within our city, would they have the opportunity to, of course, maybe apply, but because of the fact that they may have some type of relationship in getting to some of these rental properties and knowing, having culture capital, would they be looking for these positions?
Anybody that is qualified for them, we would love to see their applications.
Okay.
So when do you plan to start recruiting?
So we would start with 2 managers.
Okay, let's, so budget's approved, 1 October, you're cleared hot. What starts happening when?
So we have an audit manager position that already exists, so
Right.
it's ready to go. We have an enforcement manager position we would have to bring to admin to get created. As soon as that's ready, we would post those 2 managers, an auditor, and a revenue officer. And then we would wait until July 1st to post the remaining positions.
July 1st. Why?
So we have to purchase vehicles and equipment for these positions, and that lag gives us a chance to even out the revenue, the additional revenue with the expenses.
Were those vehicles, equipment in that 608?
Yes, sir.
All right, good answer. Gentlemen, Mr. Fail, Mr. Wilson, any other questions?
Well, one more question. Since I've been on council a while ago, we had a retiree, Mr. Vincent. What was his title, and what did he do as it relates to this revenue code?
I'm trying to remember exactly what his title was.
Compliance.
Compliance and Enforcement Manager. Right. So he was over the outside revenue officers.
Uh-huh.
That position doesn't exist anymore.
Correct.
Right.
And is there any components of that position that doesn't exist will be within these new positions that we're creating?
Yes, some of it will be in the enforcement manager.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Fail? Well, I hate to admit it, but I'm also excited about the 5 new revenue enforcement officers.
Yeah.
We are too.
Yeah.
One thing I will add is that we will be tracking any, like on our end internally, any revenue that does come in throughout the year, just to make sure that we are offsetting these
That's good.
expenses. So we'll be tracking that, and providing that to the mayor.
I hope you'll not miss the opportunity to present the return on investment of these with each coming budget season.
We will not miss that opportunity.
All right, are there any other questions for the revenue officers? No, thank you very much. Mr. Holmes, who's gonna talk opioid settlements? I don't see Mr. Hobbs in here.
I believe.
He's Mr. Opioid, I thought, but Ms. Sheik is gonna take that?
I can talk about, what we've received and what his projection is.
All right.
There should be a piece of paper in front of you. It's
Thank
a
you.
large sheet of paper, yes, sir. So that's kind of the.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
She's like a mayor. She likes spreadsheets.
But you can't get enough, and
Can't
and
get
you know
enough
it's important
spreadsheets.
when it gets on 11 by 7.
And the smaller it is, the,
The bigger the piece of paper.
all right.
Okay, so if you take a look at that that right-hand column, the total that, that we have projected out that we will collect is about 3.9 million through fiscal year 2033.
Okay, that's when all the
That's
dust
when
is
everything,
settled.
yes, sir, that's when everything comes
Looking in the rearview mirror,
Mhm.
we got just under 4 million. Check.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes, sir.
Right.
Collected to date through fiscal year 24, we have collected about 1.4 million. You'll see that in the two actual
Well, I'm
columns.
sorry, Becky, say that again, please.
Collected to date, so fiscal year 23 and 24 is about $1.4 million. Those first two columns are the actual numbers.
1 point,
So the 1.23 in fiscal year 23 and the 191.
Gotcha.
I'm not seeing the 191.
At the bottom of total revenue?
It's right there at the,
At the bottom.
Halfway.
Okay, gotcha.
currently
All
we've,
right, so that 1.2 brought in 23,
yes, sir.
24, 191.
Yes,
check.
sir.
Okay.
Mhm. We have obligated about 1.195, if you look all the way to that left-hand column again.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the agency funding for Freedom Farms for 3 years at the $250,000. And that is $150,000 for 2 years for Phoenix House, the $300,000.
Gotcha.
We also allocated funding in fiscal year 24 for EMS prevention salaries. That was the 145 that you see. So the total at 1.195 in expenses.
Where is that number?
All the way to the left, the very last column, the total column, 1.195.
Got it. On the top,
All the way
on
to
the
the
top
right.
left.
I'm sorry, at the right. Yes,
No,
I'm
one
sorry.
more.
I'm looking over here at the left and the actual.
Okay.
So the total that is available, you can kind of see it's up at that box on top, also at the bottom, $2.7 million. If you were to look out to fiscal year 2033.
All right, so that takes what we project for that period, what we've obligated so far through, well, we're voting on 25,
Yes, sir.
and then 26 is in there as, I assume that's,
It's also because of the way that we do agency funding contracts with calendar year versus the fiscal year, there's a portion that'll end up in the next
Okay.
fiscal year. Yes, sir.
all right. Think I have any other questions?
Okay.
Mr. Holmes, I assume there's really no much deviation in this money coming in as scheduled, right? These are court-directed payments. And then I had asked that either you or Mr. Hobbs, without going into a treatise.
Yes.
Give us the essence of what is allowed to be, what this money is allowed to be used for.
So I will first give you my, yes, you're correct. I don't expect that there should be a deviation from what we expect to see.
Okay.
I'll give you my first general caveat, my lawyer caveat, and I deal with this with staff. It's usually a lot easier for us to answer, is this legal, than it is what's legal, if that makes sense. The general.
But surely some sort of paragraph level guidance was given, right?
Yes, sir. The general overarching ball on all this money. Each settlement has slightly different terms, and so we get Mr. Hobbs anything that is potentially going to be funded from this money to make sure we're routing the appropriate settlement funds to a use that is covered under their order. Generally, this money can be used to mitigate, prevent, treat opioid addictions and its effect on the community. That's the big answer, which I think is what you were looking for. And Mr. Hobbs could probably give it a little longer and a little bit more eloquently than I can, but.
All right. Ms. Chief, is there anything else we need to know about the projected money coming in or committed out?
No, sir, that's everything.
Okay. Mr. Wilson, Mr. Fail, any questions, comments?
No, sir, thank you.
The only question I have about the opioid, are there other court cases out there that might be some more money down the road?
There are some additional court cases that are still filtering through. I believe the big ones are probably already accounted for. I think y'all approved a settlement on a smaller one that was $250,000-ish a couple months ago. I think there may be some more of those. Obviously, bankruptcy courts have gotten involved in some of them, and so there's still, hopefully there'll be some more that still trickle in.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, that takes us through the three acknowledged deviations from the level funding mandate that covers the opioid funding piece that I asked you to be brief. We've now got, some half dozen to 10 items that are just kind of normal. Becky, where did you go? I can't see you. Okay. That are just the normal agenda items.
Yes, sir.
For finance. We're going to try to work through those. Ms. Johnson, I'm probably going to seek when we get through this to continue the budget specific items to next week's schedule. So would you be eyeing down which numbers those are going to be? And I think a motion to simply continue items blank through blank will cover it. Also, I would like from you, when we finish the meeting, talk to me about what Monday looks like, the requirements for if I want to schedule any additional hearings. Are we already past the time for Monday, or is that still good? You can talk to me about that after the meeting. Okay. Item number 2, approval of disbursement from District 1 Improvement Funds. Councilman Wilson.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I would like to support the Central High School band with $1,000, as well as the football team with $1,000, as well as the Central High School basketball team for $500. And I've asked that this be doubled up today.
Okay, so that's a $2,500 total.
Yes, sir.
Is that what that is? Ms. Chief, these I assume.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Holmes, Ms. Chief, these are all cleared
Yes,
as donatable organizations, right?
Yes.
I've done it last year. That's right.
You were a band member, weren't you?
Yes, sir. Marshall O.D. Watts, the third.
The pot is still good?
Yes, sir.
All right, is there a motion?
I made a motion.
Second? All
Thank
in
you.
favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
item is approved. New business item number 3, water and sewer budget revision number 3, Ms. Chief.
So Water and Sewer has requested to use various water and sewer auction proceeds to purchase equipment for the department. The total is $38,023. They are requesting a truck for their wastewater treatment plant and a golf cart for the meters division.
$38,000 of auction proceeds.
Yes, sir.
Generally, where'd y'all auction off?
So it was, it's equipment stuff that was no longer used for us, that we didn't have its useful life anymore, and it'll go to the auction.
And you're gonna get a truck and a golf cart for 38 grand?
Well, is that right? 38 for both of us?
That's what I have
Yeah,
listed.
for
Now,
both of us, yes.
Okay. Gentlemen, any questions, comments?
No, sir.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, item is approved. Item number 4, water and sewer reserve for future improvements, budget revision number 5. Ms. Sheik.
yes, so this will transfer funds to the water and sewer RFFI for the Copeland Sewer Repair Project. So currently that project is within the water and sewer operating fund. They want to transfer these funds to be able to continue to work on the project and not lose the funding at 9/30.
At 9:30. So
At fiscal year end. They want to be able to transfer it to the perpetual fund, to the
how
capital
much
fund.
is it?
It is, excuse me, it's $296,912.
Okay, so walk me through one more time. The 296 turns into a pumpkin October 1.
Yes, sir, I sent that, yes, so
So the way to
it's
keep
within
it
the
from
water and
doing-
sewer operating fund, and this is in their special projects line, so they'd like to continue to work on this project. They have more work to do on it, so they want to transfer it to the capital fund.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, any questions or comments?
No, sir.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, item is approved. We're on number 4. Was that budget revision number 5?
No, we have.
No, we had item number 4, water and
Yes.
sewer reserve for future improvements, budget revision number 5.
So this is just the other side of that budget revision. So this is on the
Okay.
water and sewer RFFI side that will be accepting the transfer in and creating that project line.
Okay.
$296,912.
Okay, gentlemen, any questions or comments? Is there a motion?
So moved.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item number 5, under new business, resolution authorizing payment to Alabama Department of Transportation for the buyout of FHWA grant related to Queen City Bathhouse, total $390.
Yes, so if you recall, the city accepted a grant to open and operate the transportation museum. Since this was closed before the end of the grant, we do need to pay back a prorated amount, so that's $390,000. That's budgeted within the River District Fund.
Budgeted within the what fund?
Within the River District Fund. River District Fund,
Okay.
yes, sir.
And how many years remaining on that when we bought it out?
I think it was a 20-year grant, and we operated it for about 12 and some change.
So we're buying out roughly 7 or 8 years, and we're using we have savings achieved from doing that will pay for that over time.
2.5 years, we're already in year 1. When you adopt the budget on October 1st, you'll be in year 1. It'll take approximately 2.5 to 2.25 years to get that paid back.
Okay. Through salary
And the
savings.
grant would push out about till 2032 if you didn't do this.
Okay.
In fiscal year '24, we had 157,000 in operating budgeting for that, so that's been eliminated, that's not in my budget, so in 2.5 years, you've eliminated that, and then you have that savings from then on forward.
And I do want to note for the property itself, it's on the National Register. It has LWCF encumbrances, so the only natural user would be a government entity, nonprofit, or a like type user. So it's not really a private sector centric type use for the property, just due to the entanglements.
That's the third thing I'm excited about this finance committee meeting. Gentlemen, any questions or comments?
No, sir.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item number 6, under new business, approval to apply for the FY25 ADPH fluoridation grant program. Mr. Gurney,
Yes, sir.
welcome.
Thank you. So this is asking for approval to apply for that grant. What we'll do, there's an opportunity to have $25,000 in grant funds through the Alabama Department of Public Health The intention, if awarded, would be to replace the fluoride tank at Jerry Plot Plant. He's replacing it anyways. We think that'll be about $30,000. We'll supplement with operational funds, whatever the cost is beyond that 25.
So
Deadline's the 20th, starting early.
now we have a fluoride tank that adds fluoride to our water, check?
Yep.
And the tank needs to be replaced.
Yep.
Should be 30 grand, 25 from this. If we get it,
Yes, sir.
5 we'll make up for.
That's right.
Gentlemen, any other questions or comments?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Fluoridation grant program is approved. Item number 7, resolution authorizing renewal of the city's engineers' professional liability 24 and 25 insurance company with QBE Specialty. Total $20,038. Mr. Holmes.
Yes, sir. This is one of the policies that we briefed you on in insurance litigation. Last time we had an insurance litigation committee meeting. However, it was too far out from that policy renewing for us to have the quote. This is the quote we have gotten in for this new year. It is about a $700 increase in that total. This is our professional liability insurance for our engineers. That increase seems in line with just naturally things increasing.
Okay. Gentlemen, any questions, comments? For a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, item is approved. Let's see where we are. Item number 8, adopting an ordinance suspending the pay plan to include one step for non-public safety pay schedule employees. Ms. Chief.
Yes, sir. So from 8 down, these are all budget related, fiscal year budget related adoption items.
Okay.
So this will award the one step in COLA to non-public safety employees.
All right, you want to. Gentlemen, I would like us to go ahead and try to work through
Sure.
8, 9, and 10 right now, and then we'll take another look and see. So, item number 8, adopting an ordinance suspending the pay plan to, Becky, suspending the pay plan to include one step for non-public safety
Yes, sir.
employees.
So, Mr. Holmes can correct me if I'm wrong. So within code, we have 2 steps in a COLA per code. So what this
We
is
have
doing.
2 steps in a COLA.
So what this is doing is suspending that pay plan to award the one step in the COLA.
Can you talk to me?
What's
about
the
it?
impact?
Yeah, that's what I
So
want to know.
the way the code is drafted, and we're talking about non-public safety currently, which is Exhibit C, non-public safety employees get a COLA, and the formulation for that COLA is based upon the CPI Southern Urban as of January of that year, which in this instance is 4.5%. Also by code, the pay plan says that all non-public safety city employees get 2 steps annually. The mayor's budget calls for a total of a 6% increase, which is the 4.5% COLA, as well as 1 step.
Okay.
And so you have to suspend the pay plan to give 1 step and to have 2 steps. I'm the person that gets the distinction every year of writing the resolution that does that.
So, I guess, because I know people will probably, perhaps, non-public safety employees will probably reach out to me, and several others. Who does that include? What area departments do those include?
That includes all non-sworn police and all personnel that is not a sworn member of the police and fire department is paid under Exhibit C.
Okay.
That can also be seen in one of the exhibits. I don't remember off the top of my head. It's either A or B. Sort of sets out everybody, all the different job titles and whether or not they're paid under Exhibit C or D. Exhibit D is the public safety pay plan.
That answer your question, Mr. Wilson?
Yes, sir. I guess my my reservation or concern is, so normally they would get 2 steps, right?
By code.
By code.
But based upon in my experience of the last several years, we've gotten large COLAs. And so that has a huge budgetary impact. There have been years that just revenues were flat, that we've suspended the pay plan completely.
So we're just using the COLA to offset portion of what one of the 2 steps would have done.
That's what I'm.
Yes, sir. The COLA is more than, a step is 1.5%, and so our COLA at 4.5% is more than both steps would be combined.
Same amount of money in the employee's pocket.
If we gave them
Okay.
2 steps and didn't give them a COLA, it would be less money.
It would be less, and any of
Okay.
your long-term employees that have topped out would not receive anything.
You're right.
Got to understand it, right? Okay,
Any other questions, Mr.
No, sir.
Fail?
No.
Comment? Is there a motion?
so moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay.
Do you want me to walk through sort of the technicalities of this one?
Yeah,
Yes.
where you may as well just stay up there. Let's see if we can get through this.
Mhm.
Amending section 19-42, Exhibit D of the city's pay plan to add a COLA for public safety pay schedule employees.
And so now I'm gonna blank on it. The exhibit D, our public safety employees receive automatically 1 step, which is 2.5% based upon the pay plan. They do not automatically receive a COLA. And so this year, in an effort, I believe, and don't let me put words in your mouth, Mayor, to kind of equalize both sides, the COLA has been established for them at 3.5%. So when you add that to the 2.5%, that gets you the same 6% overall increase that non-public safety employees are getting.
Okay, questions, comments?
I'm just glad to see that we can give them a raise, because when I was a city employee, there were many years we did not get a raise. So I appreciate y'all working this out.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, item is approved. Let's see, I think that brings us to item number 10, amending section 16-90 and 16-156 regarding solid waste collection and service charge.
Yes, so this will set our garbage fees at the levels presented in the previous budget briefings. If you'll recall, we raised the residential garbage by $1.25 and non-residential by $2.
I'm sorry.
We raised residential by $1.25 and non-residential by $2. So this will set the garbage fees.
Okay. Gentlemen, any questions?
For the
Comments?
person, will you say what those fees will be, those new charges?
Yes, sir. So residential will go to $9 and non-residential $37.35.
And I will reiterate what I think I know. We're just adjusting to the cost, well, actually not really to the, even up to the cost of performing the service, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. Item is approved. Now, I think as I look down through, Ms. Johnson, you back with us for a second?
Yes.
So as I look down through the remaining items, I think 11 through 19 are what I rightly or wrongly consider sort of the core budget items. And what I would like to do, gentlemen, Fail, Mr. Wilson, if it meets with your approval, is I would like to make a motion to continue those to next week and then jump down to item number 20 and take care of it and get it out of the way.
Mr. Chair, I offer a motion that we
Second.
do such.
Okay, so does that, Vicki, did you get those?
Yes.
We're gonna continue 11 through 19 to next Tuesday's meeting, and we're now on item 20. There was a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Okay. So we're now on item 20, adjusting CPI timing application.
Yes, sir.
Various chapters of the Code of Tuscaloosa.
For longer than I've been at the city, there have been different areas of the code that have included a CPI adjustment. Our COLAs are one, for instance. They have not always been written to be at the same time or necessarily based upon the same metric. What we had done in years past is whenever something was adjusted based upon a CPI, we would do the calculations, the A&F would do the calculations, I would draft an ordinance amending code, and we'd update whatever table is in the code, whatever table is in the code, we'd update those numbers to reflect the CPI adjustment. That, based upon where some of the items are just sort of buried in code, when they come up during the year, the inefficiency of pushing all of that back through council when council is already established by code a CPI adjustment, we got with our Muni Code, who's our code compilers, and we actually do a memo that says, here's what the CPI adjustment is that code already establishes, and they do that CPI adjustment, which helps some of the moving parts. What this will do is it will take all the various places that have those CPI adjustments, they will set them based upon the same metric at the same time. And so annually, when we do the budget work, and I don't see London's in here, London has done a tremendous job of keeping up with this. He helps with the memos for the code folks. And so what this will have happen, rather than having to keep up and do this several times throughout the year, as we go through the budget process, we'll be able to look back, and we're going to use the same metric we use for COLAs, which is the Southern Urban January of the prior year. We'll be able to look back for budgeting purposes and see what that COLA will be on all the items that are automatically CPI adjusted. Does that make sense?
Yeah, actually it does. I'm curious, London, without resorting to code compilers, what's a good, what's your thumb and stick it in the air number for CPI that we're using now?
Well, this year it's 4.5%.
4.5?
Yes, sir. Last year was 8.6.
8.6. Was that the peak?
Yeah.
I think so.
Last time.
Huh?
And that's based off of January CPI date that we're trying to move towards.
So that's the date that we use for our COLA that we just discussed. So we'd like to get everybody, all of these CPIs on the same, using that same metric, so that it's updated at the same
No,
time.
again, that makes, I was just curious. So was that 8.6, was that the peak that we experienced inflation, and that was year before last?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Gentlemen, any questions or comments?
And what you'll ultimately see at council, and it's on my desk for me to continue editing, is an ordinance that goes into the portions of code that sets that CPI adjustment and makes it say the same thing.
Okay.
It's exciting reading.
I trust you on that one. If there are no other questions or comments, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, item number 20 is approved. Is there any more business to be brought before Finance Committee today? All right, so gang, game on next week. we got some stuff to push through, and I look forward to the week, the upcoming week, to work out any last minute things we need to try to on that. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.